Commissioner Udine, we can begin the meeting now.
All right, thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Good evening, commissioners and staff. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
United States of America.
and to our republic which stands as one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Commissioners, planning board staff, ladies and gentlemen, as the chairman of the City of Paterson Planning Board, I call this meeting of October 4th, 2021 to order. I hereby state that all the provisions of the State of New Jersey Public Meetings Law have been fully and completely met. The notice of provisions required have been properly posted in the Planning Board office and with the City of Paterson clerk. The public notice and advertisements have been published in Herald News and the record on September 22nd, 2021 in accordance with the law. And the copies of such notice and public advertisements are on file in the Planning Board office, as is also the agenda listing the application to be taken by the Planning Board as this meeting. The procedure tonight, it will be in accordance with the rules, regulation, and bylaws as therefore determined by the Planning Board at its office at 225 Allison Street in the City of Paterson. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Kalik. Councilman Kalik, absent. Commissioner Figueroa.
Present.
Commissioner Roman.
Present.
Commissioner Fulmore.
Present.
Commissioner Santana.
Present.
Commissioner Cleaves. Absent. Commissioner Fisher.
Present.
Commissioner Ahmed.
Present.
Chairman Udine.
Present.
Commissioner Northrup. Absent. Commissioner Lorenzo. Mr. Chairman, we have 7 commissioners present. We can,
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch.
which is more than a quorum.
All right, sir. Thank you. Thanks so much. This evening we have 2 special meetings, as you have learned by now. We are going to have a special meeting now, and we're going to start another one right after. So first one is 1061, 1063 Main Street. One more time. Am I correct, Mr. Deutsch?
Yes, sir.
The notice pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act addressing effect of coronavirus measures on the next public meeting, consistent with the coronavirus-related restrictions of Executive Order Number 17 given on Saturday, March 21st, 2020 by Governor Philip G. Murphy, the Planning Board of the City of Paterson will not conduct in-person participation of the public at all future meetings until further notice. However, public participation will be available by means of communication equipment pursuant to NJSA 10-4-8, commencing on April 15, 2020. Though there may potentially be a practical need for a limited number of administrative, technical, or their city personnel to be present or near the council chambers, therefore City Hall, 155 Market Street, Paterson, New Jersey, in-person participation of the public is prohibited. Nevertheless, for reasons of compliance with the said Executive Order Number 17, public participation will be available by calling at 973-321-1579. I'm repeating, 973-321-1479. Meeting ID number 711-680-001. Meeting ID 711-680-001. On the Planning Board special meeting of Monday, October 4, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. The public may also participate in the meeting by accessing the website of the City of Paterson, www.patersonnj.gov, and following the email link for the meetings, www.patersonnj.gov/planningboard. The first application, 1061-1063, Main Street Block 701 to Lot 15. The applicant proposes to remove an existing three-story building on this site and construct a new three-story building on the 5,145 square foot lot that is located on the northeast corner of Main Street and Delaware Avenue. The cellar level of the proposes mechanical equipment and parking for 9 vehicles. The first floor proposes offices and retail store. The second floor proposes workshop space and storage. The third floor proposes office space. The proposal is located within the B2 Community Business District. Access into the cellar parking is within the B2 Community Business District. Access to the cellar parking is from the Delaware Avenue. Variances are requested from rear yard setback as a rear from the Delaware yard setback of 25 feet is required. The building foundation is proposed on the rear property line. Lot coverage as maximum 60% is permitted and rear 91% is proposed. Parking at 39 parking spaces are required and 9 parking spaces are proposed. Not providing one, go down to the plan. Providing the one required off-seat handicap parking space and parking stalls of 8.5 feet by 18 feet are proposed, which is below the 9 feet by 18 feet requirement. Required site plan approval and back variances. That's all from me, and I'm requesting Mr. Deutsch to give the full review.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Lorenzo has joined us.
All right, so we got 8 commissioners.
Yes, sir. Property taxes and sewer charges are current. Persons having a 10% or more ownership interest in 1062. Mr. Maricona, could you kindly provide the owner's name and Main Street Realty, please?
Sure. It's Aref, A-R-E-F is the first name. I'm going to give you the spelling in a second on his last name. Aref, are you on the meeting right now?
Yes.
Just spell your last name for me, so make sure I have it right.
Yeah, A like apple, B like boy, U like umbrella, H like Harry, A like apple, D like David, B like boy, A like apple.
Thank you. Arthur Chappelle Jr., professional licensed surveyor, has prepared a survey dated July 14, 2020. The survey indicates that the parcel has frontage of 50.06 feet on Main Street, additional frontage of 101.62 feet on Delaware Avenue, and side and rear lot lines measuring 50 feet and 104.17 feet. The parcel has area of 5,145 square feet or 0.12 acres. The survey also indicates that a 3-story framed commercial building exists along the Main Street frontage, a paved parking lot with 10 parking spaces with driveway access on Delaware Avenue also exists. AK Architecture has prepared a 5-page architectural submittal dated January 18, 2021. Drawing C01 indicates a tax map of the 200-foot radius, location map, the zoning calculations, and notes. Drawing S01 indicates details for lighting fixtures, a proposed planting schedule, storm drainage and management calculations, a proposed geometry and grading plan, and a proposed utility, landscape, and lighting site plan. The proposed geometry and grading plan indicates that the existing 3-story building is to be removed. The proposed building is to be placed on the Main Street and Delaware Avenue property lines, on the northern side property line, and partially on the rear property line. The proposed building is to cover 90.80% of the lot. 9 off-street parking spaces measuring 8.5 feet by 18 feet are proposed on the below ground level. New concrete sidewalk and curb are proposed. A new 18-foot depressed curb cut to access the site is proposed on Delaware Avenue. Drawing S02 is the site construction and utility connections details and includes water and sanitary sewer service connection, asphalt pavement detail, vertical curb and roadway replacement, sidewalk detail, granite curb, depressed driveway, tree planting, and landscape notes. Drawing S03 is a soil erosion and sediment control plan. The plan indicates notes, landscaping specifications, sediment control, fence detail, stabilized construction entrance and soil erosion bale barrier detail. Drawing A01 is the floor plans and elevations. The seller parking plan contains area of 5,145 square feet and indicates an electrical panel room, a mechanical room, recycling and garbage containers, a stairwell, 9 parking spaces, and a 23-foot parking aisle width. The first floor plan contains area of 4,121 square feet. The entrance into the retail store is proposed on the Main Street, Delaware Avenue corner of the building. There are additional rooms on the first floor, including a prayer room, a workshop, offices, a staircase, and a room for a future elevator are indicated. A green roof above the parking area at the rear of the parcel is indicated. The second floor plan also has gross area of 4,121 square feet. The second floor plan proposes an accessory workshop and storage area. The third floor plan is gross area of 910 square feet and is proposed as office use. There's a door from the office providing access onto the roof area. The proposed Main Street first floor elevation indicates a black aluminum storefront system surrounded by a stone finish, a fiberglass lit entrance, and a metal finish canopy. The second floor indicates 2 decorative fiber bands, an area for future signage, and 6 windows. The third floor indicates 7 windows. The Delaware Avenue first floor elevation, a stone finish and storefront system, the access door into the stairwell, the gated garage roll-up door, and a textured block finish on all 3 floors. The second floor indicates the 60 square foot future sign area and a precast stone finish surrounding the 6 windows on the second floor. The building has an average proposed height of 38 feet and 3 inches. A total of 39 off-street parking spaces are required. The first floor retail space of 4,121 square feet requires 1 parking space for every 200 square feet or 21 parking spaces. The second floor accessory storage workshop of 4,121 square feet requires 1 parking space for each of the 13 employees. The third floor accessory space of 910 square feet requires 5 parking spaces based on there being 910 square feet and 1 parking space required for every 200 square feet. As the applicant is proposing 9 off-street parking spaces, a variance for 30 off-street parking spaces is requested. Variances are requested for rear yard setback, as a rear yard setback of 25 feet is required, and the building foundation is proposed on the rear property line. Lot coverage as a maximum of 60% is permitted, and 91% is proposed. Not providing the 1 required off-street handicap space and parking stalls of 8.5 feet by 18 feet are proposed, which is below the 9 feet by 18 feet requirement. The backup aisle width is 23 feet, whereas 24 feet is required. The plans have been sent to the city engineer for review and approval. It shall be the responsibility of the applicant and/or the preparer of the plan to obtain a letter from the city engineer indicating the plans have been satisfactorily reviewed prior to the plans being released to the construction official. Surrounding land uses. This proposal is in the South Paterson section of the city. A wide range of 2-story and 3-story mixed-use commercial and residential buildings occupy Main Street and the surrounding area on lots of 25 feet by 100 feet and larger. Concluding remarks. The applicant estimates the cost of this proposal at approximately $2 million. That is your staff review for this proposal, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Mr. Maricante, good evening, sir. Are you representing the applicant regarding?
Here on behalf of 1061 Main Street Realty LLC. We thank you for hearing us on a special meeting basis initially. Also want to indicate that we're in full agreement with Mr. Deutsch's report. Our expert will be testifying with regard to the site plan and interior design, of course. And I'll just give a brief opening in terms of some of the background here. As Mr. Deutsch accurately describes, there is a mixed-use building on this site, and this will be a complete redo and reconstruction of this site to upgrade and bring it in accordance with modern code standards and modern services to be provided to the South Paterson business community.
Excuse me, Mr. Americana, can you speak a little bit closer to the microphone?
Sure. Is this any better?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Again, we're looking to completely redo this site. The existing mixed-use structure will be removed, and so we're looking at new construction. The site will be totally occupied by the applicant's golden jewelry shop on the first floor, retail with the second floor workshop, and the office and storage space that is included and referred to in Mr. Deutsch's report. And he will be on site at all times. He's an experienced South Paterson businessman that's been part of this community for many, many years. Again, so we're confident that this is a business that will serve this community on a continuing basis. Again, we know that there's a parking variance present here. As you know, it's based on the square footage of the space. So in many cases, that's not necessarily an accurate reading of what the realistic parking needs are, particularly in the South Paterson business community, which is such a walkable neighborhood and provides probably the best public transportation routes right off of Main and Crooks and so forth in the city. So what we anticipate, as with many South Paterson businesses, is that this will become a destination for shoppers that are in the Main Street corridor and will partake of entering into various businesses along that corridor, which has been the case for many, many years, as the commissioners know. And again, they have that easy access from public transportation as well. So that being said, we're going to call on our expert from AK Architecture, Anwar. Are you available?
Yes, I'm available.
Mr. Maracanda, how many witnesses do you have this evening?
Just the applicant, just the expert witness and the applicant. That's it, 2 witnesses.
2 witnesses. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Malinger.
Mr. Anwar, please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Say your full name for the record, please.
Anwar Al-Khatib, A-N-W-A-R. Last name is A-L-K-H-A-T-I-B.
Anwar, for the record, what are your professional licensing in place today?
Yes, it's in a good standing.
And what is your licensing in what area?
So I'm a registered architect in the state of New Jersey since 2012.
And you've appeared before this board on numerous occasions?
Correct.
As an expert witness.
Thank you.
Very much. Amar, you can run through for us. Obviously, you've heard Mr. Deutsch's report to the board. Could you tell us how we hope to completely renovate and upgrade this site?
Yes, I do. So, Mr. Deutsch's report is a comprehensive report and, save a lot of time for everybody to understand the project. So, basically what we're doing is trying to remove an existing 3-story building. It's a mixed use with office space in the ground floor and residential upper floor, and has an existing parking lot. It contains 9 parking spaces. We're proposing to very much keep the existing impervious coverage.
Mr. Al-Khatib, do you have any plan to present on the screen for our
Yes.
commissioners?
Yes, let me just share. How can I share with this? So, you guys can see my screen?
You can zoom in a little bit so that it will be clear.
Okay.
It is there, it is up there, but you can make it a little bit bigger.
So, this is the first page of the title sheet. I don't want to go through it too much because it's just very informative about the maps. So I'm gonna jump into the site plan, which is sheet number S01. So this drawing here represents the existing condition and proposed condition with overlapping the proposed over the existing. So the existing building as a 3-story frame here will be demolished, and the parking lot that is supporting this building also will be demolished. And we're proposing to construct another 3-story building with a basement, covering very much the entire site. And the sidewalks, the curb cuts, all will be replaced by new, as according to the city standards and the Passaic County standards as well. On the same page, I'm proposing a landscaping plan, which is very much simple. We have a green roof on the back of the property, which will be covering the driveway aisle accessing the basement. And we're proposing 2 street trees at Delaware Avenue. By Main Street, we have an existing tree. We will just keep it and protect it during construction. The entire sidewalk will be replaced. The curb will be replaced as well. This is very much the engineering perspective of the project. Now I want to go to the first floor plan. I want to skip SO2 because the details. I want to skip SO3 because the soil erosion, more engineering details. I want to jump into drawing number A01. And I want to start describing from the basement portion. So, as Mr. Joe described, we have a basement with 5,145 square feet. And the basement will provide 9 parking spaces to support the project. The basement will be accessible from Delaware Avenue, from this side here of the project, and will provide also mechanical room, electrical panels and recycle and trash containers there for the business. The basement will be accessible to the first floor through a staircase, which is also accessible through Delaware Avenue. Going up to the first floor, which is the main so I'll just jump in. The first floor, which is main will contain a retail space of a total area of 4,121 square feet. Will be accessible from Main Street. The door will be accessed from the corner of Main Street and Delaware Avenue, and the front portion of the first floor will be completely a retail space accessible by the customers, for the walk-in customers, and the back portion of the same floor will be used for back of the house amenities like offices, a workshop, a vault, bathrooms, and other facilities. Now, going up to the second floor of the same project, we're providing an open space. It's not finalized design from the interior portion, but it's will be used as an accessory workshop, storage. Also, the owner will be doing his online sales from there, so the staff will be using the second floor. Will not be accessible by any of the customers. It's only private between the owner and his employees. Also, we're proposing to have a future elevators spot on the project, just in case in the future we need to add an elevator. By this time, he's not into adding an elevator. We're not required by code for this use. On the third floor of the same building, we're proposing an office, which is an accessory office use for the same business. Would be also limited to the staff of the building, and this office has an open roof amenity, so you can, to the office, the employees can access the roof for kind of like small recreation there. Now, as Mr. Deutsch mentioned, we have a rear yard condition, which is we are asking for a variance, but we're trying to respect as much as we can, and what we're trying to do is add a sum of green roof area above the basement ramp. In this case, our neighbor, lot number 14, which is, you can say, the north of our project, the first house next to our building, will not have a flat view of a 3-story building. So we're setting back about like 15 feet on the side, about like 20 feet on the other side, and that area will create some kind of buffer between our views and the existing neighbor that we have there. Going back to the elevation, so we're proposing to have not a modern look, more as a luxury look, because it will be a jewelry store. So we're trying to use precast stone as a main material, large storefront windows with black frame, a huge canopy like covering the portion of the main street sidewalk, and oversized windows. The back portion of Gilbert Avenue, wherever you have the storage areas and the amenity, would be covered with texture block, as well the parking entrance for the basement will be covered with texture block. And in this elevation here, you can see how the building is set back from the neighbor, providing a green roof area, which is the buffer zone we try to create to respect our neighbor there. And this very much the building we're proposing.
All right, now with respect to variances, you have touched upon, them as you presented your testimony. With regard to the parking requirements, I touched on it in my presentation. That is based on square footage of the space, is that correct?
That's correct.
On the commercial space.
Yes.
This business, as I indicated, is going to be a great deal of walk-in and public transportation. You indicated also the applicant can confirm that a great deal of this business is done on an online basis still?
That's correct. The second floor basically will be most work as a storage workshop and online retail.
All right, I think you've covered any of the variances that were discussed on Mr. Deutsch's review. So at this time, Anwar will be open for any questions at the time.
Mr. Marikanda, thank you, Mr. Al-Khatib. And Mr. Marikanda, do you want to call the owner in first and then we can go to the question session?
Sure, fine, that's fine.
All right, you can call Mr. Mohammed, you can swear the owner in.
Please raise your right hand.
Yes.
You swear affirm testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth. Can you put your camera on, please?
Yes, sure. Okay. Okay.
Please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Say your full name for the record.
My name is Arif Abu Hadda.
Okay, Arif, you are the principal of 1061 Main Street Realty LLC, is that correct?
Yes.
And as such, you're also very familiar and have been in the Paterson business community for many years?
Yes.
Describe to the board, if you would, what your nature of your work is.
Manisha, we are a retail business, jewelry business, and we import from overseas. We sell to the Middle Eastern, mostly customers.
Okay. And how long have you been in this business?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. Okay. And where have you operated before?
Which is already existing. We have existing business. Want to plug it down from the site.
And you would like to move your whole operation to this new building?
Yes.
Okay. And you've heard Mr. Deutsch's report, is that right?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And Anwar's testimony, of course.
Yes.
We talked about your business serving that community in general. Is it true that there was a great deal of your work is done by online sales?
You could say part of it, maybe 30% of it.
Okay.
Try to increase it more in the future because now we don't have the space. But with the new space, it's going to be much easier for us to do more.
Okay, very good. And the spaces that are designed for parking there, will they be used primarily for your employees, or will there be any space available for customers as well?
Most is going to be for customers. It's a family business. We come just maybe 1 or 2 cars. All the work is there is family. It's a family.
Okay, very good. And what would your hours of operation be?
From 10 to 8 o'clock.
How many days a week?
7 days a week.
Okay. All right. So that covers the testimony that Anwar has given, and I wanted you to ratify that testimony. You agree with it? All the
Yes.
testimony then?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. That's all I have of Arif at this time.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Abu Hadba, and thank you, Mr. Marikanda. Now I'm going to leave the floor for the residents if they want to call any witnesses. Residents, if you want to call and ask any questions to any of our witnesses, you may call at 973-321-1579. Again, 973-321-1579. Meeting ID number 711-680-001. You have 2 minutes to call in, 3 minutes for questions or comments. Mr. Deutsch, is there any caller in line as of now?
As of this moment, we have no callers.
Is it okay if we go to the commissioners and by the time anyone joins, we can take the question?
Yes, sir, that's a good idea.
All right, thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Commissioners, if you have any question to any of the witnesses, to the architect, Mr. Al-Khatib, or to the owner, Mr. Abu Hadba, you can ask a question. Commissioners? No question? Mr. Deutsch, should we wait another minute for any resident, if they want to reach out?
Yes, I think we should wait another minute.
All right, thank you, Mr.
Mr. Chairman, may I readdress Anwar with one follow-up question, if I may?
Yes, sir, sure.
Thank you. Anwar, with regard to the notation that Mr. Deutsch made regarding the parking spaces in terms of its size and functionality, could you tell us your opinion from an architectural point of view about the parking space design? Will it function with that limitation that he referred to?
Yes, the parking space is 8.5 by 18 is undersized from the typical 9 by 18. But since it's a basement access parking, so we are expecting that the cars that will come into the basement will be like normal sized cars, not oversized cars. We're not expecting to have oversized vehicles. At the same time, the ownership will be controlling cars to go in and out. So they will think that the car, would maybe create some space issues. It will not get in. And as Mr. Rao said, it's a family-owned business, so we will have control 100% for people parking there. And as I spoke with Mr. Rao, most of the clients, they come and they stay for like a couple of hours and they leave. So they will not have more than 5 or 6 customers maximum on the store during the at one time. And
So your opinion then is
and they will have me for parking, sir.
by 18 will be functional and safe?
Yes. We are using this right now in most of the municipalities. We reduce the cost to 8.5 by 18, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that.
Thank you, Mr. Maricando. Thank you, architect. And any resident calling, Mr. Deutsch?
No callers, sir.
I believe we gave enough time for calling, and now I believe we can go to Mr. Akaviva. Can we go to a motion?
Yes, Chairman Medina. Very quickly, I don't know if I picked this up or not. Did you indicate on the record that Commissioner Lorenzo is in attendance?
I believe we did.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Yes, we can go to Mr. Maricando. Did you make your closing arguments?
Not closing yet. Yeah, I want to go to Mr. Maricando for a closing statement, and then we'll go to the motion.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Very briefly, my client's an established businessman in this trade. I think this is an opportunity to continue to employ Paterson residents, provide a service that is very much desired in the area. This will upgrade the building certainly from what it has been. He has not diminished the number of parking spaces from the original mixed-use site. Frankly, we believe this is a much more functional building than the old mixed-use building that was on the site. And we think that the variances that we're seeking are appropriate, and this will add to the continuing growth of service businesses in the South Paterson corridor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Maricando. Thank you, everyone. We'd like to go to the motion. I'm requesting any commissioners would like to make motion. Commissioners?
This is Commissioner Santana, would like to make a motion.
Commissioner Santana, floor is yours.
I move that Board Anthony prepare a resolution granting the application on 1061 Main Street, Realty LLC, 1061-1063 Main Street, Paterson, New Jersey 07503, at the property located at 1061-1063 Main Street, Block 1012, Lot 15. Subject to site plan approval, Bill Variance, State Engineer, HAP Soil Conservation District, and Passaic County Planning Board.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any commissioner to second the motion?
Second.
Second. Was it, who I heard first? Before Commissioner Lorenzo, I heard someone else.
Fulmore.
Thank you, Commissioner Fulmer. Motion for approval was done by Commissioner Santana and it was seconded by Commissioner Fulmer. And roll call, please. Commissioner Deutsch.
Thank you, Commissioner Dean. Chairman Dean. Commissioner Santana,
Yes.
Commissioner Fulmar,
Yes.
Commissioner Ahmed,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Figueroa,
Yes.
Commissioner Lorenzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Roman,
Yeah.
Acting Chairman Dean.
It's a yes.
The application is passed by a vote of 8 yes to 0 no.
Congratulations.
We thank you very much for your approval.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, everyone. We have to close this meeting and restart again. Don't leave. But we have to restart on the procedure. Those who are not related to our next second application, you may leave. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You give me a minute?
Sure.
Sorry, I have a question. Is the agenda going to be posted online of the meeting?
To do it, we start approve it and that's it. We're done.
They should be.
Okay.
They're posted by the city's, IT division.
Okay, thank you.
Are we ready for the second one? Good to see you, Michelle Reed.
Give me one second.
Yeah, take your time. Let me look at my plan as well. I have to take some break as well. How did I do? How was my performance?
Very good.
Thank you. Good to hear from that. Thank you, Mr. Fisher. Commissioner.
I'm impressed from the.
Thank you, Commissioner Lorenzo. I learned the word, Bengali word.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, can we start, I believe? Yeah. All right, everyone, Commissioner, good evening one more time. Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Commissioners, Planning Board staff, ladies and gentlemen, as the chairman of the City of Paterson Planning Board, I call this meeting of October 4, 2021 to order. I hereby state that all the provisions of the State of New Jersey Public Meeting Law have been fully and completely met, that the notice of provisions required have been properly posted in the Planning Board office and of the City of Paterson Clerk. The public notice and advertisement have been published in Herald News and the record on September 22nd, 2021 in accordance with the law, and the copies of such notice and public advertisements are on file in the Planning Board office. As is also the agenda listing of the application to be taken up by the Planning Board as this meeting. The procedure tonight, it will be accordance with the rules, regulation, and bylaws as heretofore determined by the Planning Board as its office at 225 Ellison Street in the City of Paterson. Roll call, please.
Councilman Kalik, absent. Commissioner Figueroa,
Present.
Commissioner Roman,
Present.
Commissioner Fulmore,
Present.
Commissioner Santana,
Present.
Commissioner Cleaves, absent. Commissioner Lorenzo, Commissioner Lorenzo,
Present.
Commissioner Fisher,
Present.
Commissioner Ahmed,
Present.
Vice Chairman Udine,
present.
Commissioner Northrup, absent. We have 8 commissioners in attendance.
Deutsch. Our second application is 318 Manhattan Street. Am I correct, Mr. Deutsch?
Yes, sir.
All right, so the notice pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act addressing effect of coronavirus measures on the next public meeting, consistent with the coronavirus-related restrictions of the Executive Order Number 107, given on Saturday, March 21st, 2020 by Governor Philip G. Murphy. The Planning Board of City of Paterson will not conduct in-person participation of the public at all future meetings until further notice. However, public participation will be available by means of communication equipment pursuant to NJSA 10-4-8 commencing on April 15th, 2020. Though there may potentially be a practical need for limited number of administrative, technical, or other city personnel to be present or near the council chamber, third floor, City Hall, 155 Market Street, Paterson, New Jersey, in-person participation of the public is prohibited. Nevertheless, for reasons of compliance with the said Executive Order Number 107, public participation will be available by calling at 973-321-1579, 973-321-1579, meeting ID number 711-680-001, repeating meeting ID number 711-680-001. Planning Board special meetings of Monday, October 4th, 2021 at 7 p.m. On the date, the public may also participate in the meetings by accessing the website of the City of Paterson, www.patersonnj.gov, and following the email link for the meetings, www.patersonnj.gov/planning board. Our application is United Assets Management, 318 Manhattan Street. It will be presented this evening. The address is 318 Manhattan Street, block 4306, lot 10, 180-182 Carroll Street, block 4306, lot 11, and 184-186 Carroll Street, block 4306, lot 12. The applicant proposes to construct a 5-story mixed-use building with the parking and 1 commercial space on the first floor and residential unit on the second, third, and fourth and fifth floors. A total of 32 residential units are proposed, consisting of 12 one-bedroom units, 16 two-bedroom units, and 4 three-bedroom units. Each of the upper 4 floors will contain 8 units. 34 off-street parking spaces are proposed with the access to Carroll Street. Variances are requested for the front yard setback, as a minimum of 3 feet is required and 0 feet is proposed on both Manhattan Street and Carroll Street. Rear yard setback as 20 feet is required and 0 feet is proposed. Lot building coverage as maximum of 60% is permitted and 89% is proposed. Lot impervious coverage as 80% is permitted and 100% is proposed. Parking as 9 of the 34 parking spaces are tandem spaces and amenity areas as 4,800 square feet is required and 3,148 square feet is proposed. The proposal is within the RA-2 zone of the 4th Ward Redevelopment area. Requires site plan approval and park variances. I'm requesting Mr. Deutsch to give the full review.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Property taxes and sewer charges are current. Persons having a 10% or more ownership interest, United Assets Management LLC or Anderson Reed, providing an address of 641 Broadway, Suite 3, Paterson, New Jersey. Evans Architect has prepared a 4-page site plan revised to November 17th, 2020. The intent of the RA2 residential district is designed to permit a more intensive residential use of land with various types of dwellings. Density is maintained in medium range, while building height is kept low enough to be generally compatible with 1- and 2-family residential development. Mixed-use development, which includes residential and neighborhood commercial uses on lots with a width of at least 50 feet and located at the corners of blocks with commercial uses that are permitted on the first floor with residential uses above. Thomas Stearns III, PE and LS, has prepared a map of the property dated September 9th, 2020. That indicates the parcel frontage of 100 feet along Carroll Street, additional frontage of 125 feet along Manhattan Street, and side rear lot lines that measure 100 feet and 125 feet. The property has area of 12,500 square feet and is located on the southwest corner of Carroll Street and Manhattan Street. The survey also indicates an existing 2.5-story residential building in excess of 100 years old. A block garage and paved parking accessible from Carroll Street is also indicated. Manhattan Street is a one-way street in a westerly direction. Carroll Street is a two-way street. The intersection is signalized. Drawing S1 is the site plan and indicates the existing condition site plan, the proposed site plan, the tax map, and the zoning ordinance data. The applicant proposes to remove the existing building in its entirety and construct a new mixed-use 5-story building in its place. A note on the plan indicates that the entire site and site perimeter is to be equipped with video security throughout the public areas and site lighting along the traveled public way and parking area. Surveillance cameras are to connect to the City of Paterson Police Department system. Details are also shown for lighting, a handicap parking sign, asphalt restoration detail, curb cut, and paving detail. The curb cut access is to be on Carroll Street and is to be 24 feet in width. The site plan indicates that the building is to be constructed on the front property lines of both Carroll Street and Manhattan Street, partially on the western side property line and 5 feet from the southern property line. New trees are replaced along both the Carroll Street and Manhattan Street frontages. Street lighting attached to the building on both streets indicates sidewalk coverage on the plan. Drawing S2 is the utility grading site plan and indicates pavement striping details, traffic sign detail, recharge pit, sidewalk detail, wheel stop detail, sanitary sewer connection, and water service connection. The ground floor contains parking for 34 parking spaces. On-site drainage structures are to be placed in the parking area and include seepage pits. Drawing A1 on the floor plans. In addition to the parking spaces, the first floor indicates a 906 square foot commercial unit with a restroom and a mechanical unit to be located at the corner of the building with an access door onto Manhattan Street. The entrance into the lobby is also from Manhattan Street and indicates a 360 square foot tenant multi-purpose room, a package room, a stairwell, and an elevator. There is also a door that leads from the lobby to the parking garage. All parking spaces are at least 9 feet in width and 18 feet in length. The backup aisle is 24 feet in width. A 280 square foot refuse room is located with access to Manhattan Street and interior access from the second stairwell that is located on the northwest corner of the building. The proposed second through fifth floors contain 8 units on each floor. In addition to a gym room of 297 square feet, a tenant amenity room of 317 square feet, and a community room of 380 square feet on each floor, each of the 32 units contains a washer and dryer. A refuse chute is also located on each floor. Each floor proposes 3 one-bedroom units, 4 two-bedroom units, and 1 3-bedroom unit. The one-bedroom units contain 786, 1,060, and 1,210 square feet. The two-bedroom units contain 1,081, 1,090, 1,123, and 1,132 square feet. The 3-bedroom unit contains 1,254 square feet. Each unit has its own mechanics, at least 1 full bathroom, an enclosed bedroom, and an open kitchen, dining, and living area. Drawing A2 indicates the proposed building elevations. The Carroll Street elevation indicates the garage gate access first floor commercial store at the corner, and the 4 floors of residential units above. The building has a height of 48 feet and proposes a facade of brick veneer, double hung windows, balconies, and a decorative roofline finish. The Manhattan Street side of the building indicates the entrance to the commercial store, the entrance to the lobby, access to the refuse room, and the emergency access stairwell door. This side of the building also proposed a brick veneer facade and windows on all 4 floors, some with decorative balconies. The proposed left side building elevation proposed a brick facade for the access stairwell and a stucco finish surrounding the windows on each of the upper floors. The rear elevation indicates a stucco finish on all floors and windows on the upper floors. New variances are requested for front yard setback as a minimum of 3 feet is required and 0 feet is proposed on both Manhattan Street and Carroll Street. Rear yard setback is 20 feet is required and 0 feet is proposed. Building height as a 45-foot in height building is permitted and a 45-foot in height building is proposed. Number of building stories as a 3.5-story building is permitted and a 5-story building is proposed. Lot building coverage as a maximum of 60% is permitted and 89% is proposed. Lot impervious coverage as 80% is permitted and 100% is proposed. Parking as 9 of the 34 parking spaces are tandem spaces, and amenity areas as 4,800 square feet is permitted and 3,148 square feet is proposed. As this is a redevelopment area, the planning board must determine whether the granting of the requested variances to allow the number of dwelling units proposed by the applicant is appropriate for the lot and the immediate surrounding area. The applicant estimates that the commercial space will employ 2 persons and that the hours will be from 8 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. Proposed commercial uses that are not permitted in the zone shall require an application submittal to the zoning board of adjustment. Any alcohol sales establishments are a conditional use and shall also require an application. Any proposed identification sign placed on the building shall be in accordance with section 500-8 of the zoning and land development ordinance. It shall be the responsibility of the applicant and/or the preparer of the plan to obtain a letter from the city engineer indicating the plans have been satisfactorily reviewed prior to the plans being released to construction official. Surrounding land uses. This proposal is in the Wrigley Park section of the city. The surrounding neighborhood is mainly residential, with a YWCA located on the southeast corner of Carroll Street and Manhattan Street, and a Christian Fellowship Center located on the northeast corner. Broadway is located 1 block to the north, although previously a part of the 5th Ward. After the 2010 census, this property became part of the city's 4th Ward due to shifts in population. Concluding remarks. The applicant estimates that this proposal costs approximately $3 million. The applicant should incorporate the design elements contained within the 4th Ward redevelopment plan on the site and within the building. At a meeting held on April 17, 2019 at 171-173 Carroll Street, which is a C2 general commercial district, an applicant was approved to construct a 5-story mixed-use building with 1 commercial space on the first floor. That should be a 4-story mixed-use building. 1 commercial space on the first floor and residential units on the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floors. A total of 20 one-bedroom residential units were proposed. 6 off-street parking spaces were proposed. That is your staff review for this proposal, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch, for in details review. I'm requesting Mr. Marcando, who's representing this matter.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners again. Again, thanks for hearing us on a special meeting basis. We appreciate that very much. As you know, United Assets Management has been before this board on numerous occasions with regard to its development of numerous multi-family and mixed-use buildings within the 4th and 5th Ward zones of the city. This, we think, is another very exciting project being presented on their behalf with regard to providing much-needed new quality housing and a small retail component on the ground level. We agree with Mr. Deutsch's report in all respects. We will be presenting Mr. Evans as the architect, Mr. Williams as our planner, and Mr. Reed as the applicant himself. At this time, I'm ready to proceed with Mr. Evans.
Mr. Evans, please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your full name for the record, and please speak up. It's hard to
Matthew
hear.
Evans, architect, 470 Chamberlain Ave, Paterson, New Jersey.
We accept him as an expert witness.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Evans, you had an opportunity to prepare the site plan, is that correct?
Yes.
Could you give us your analysis for review based on Mr. Deutsch's report?
Okay, I can share, let me try and share this, site plan. I agree with, Mr. Deutsch's report, illustrating what we're, proposing to develop on this site. Going to, the site plan, the existing conditions, you can see there's a 2.5-story frame dwelling, on the intersection of Carroll and Van Houten, and behind that, we have another, structure, a large, asphalt driveway with a garage, to the south of the building. We would be removing all those improvements, and, we'd be proposing the new 5-story, mixed-use, building as shown here. And, it would be, at the intersection of Van Houten and Carroll with, garage entrance on Carroll Street and the main entrance to the apartments on Van Houten, middle of the building, and then we have the commercial, which is at the intersection of Carroll and Van Houten. Going to, the floor plans. Looking at the floor plan, we showed, basically in keeping with, Mr. Deutsch's report, showing, the parking off of Carroll Street. That would be, some tandem and some, conventional parking there. We have 2 handicap spaces, required. Any, parking over 25 would require an additional handicap space. So we provided that. And, looking at some of the, areas, we have the second stair, down, Van Houten Street with the, refuse and recycling room, which is, adjacent to that second stair. We have a chute and a compactor that basically addresses the refuse and recycling for the site. Showing the main entrance to the apartment, we have the stair number 1, we have package room, elevator, and, main lobby, nice large, lobby for the tenants, and then we have the tenant multi-purpose room, or meeting room at the ground level. There's also an entry to the garage, and then we have our commercial unit is, 906 square feet, so that, occupies the corner, the intersection. We show also the floor plans. So we have a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms. We have nice large apartments, going to, let's say, for instance, a 3-bedroom unit. We have, 3 large bedrooms, in that unit. The unit is 1,254 square feet. That's, 154 over the minimum requirement. We have a large, open kitchen, living, dining area with a large open, kitchen island, breakfast area. We have a laundry mechanical room off of that. We have a handicap bath. And then we also have, a bedroom with, its own bathroom and a closet attached to that. So it's a nice, large bedroom. And, the 2 bedrooms are also large, with large living, kitchen, and dining. Each of the, these 2 bedrooms, and the 3 bedrooms both have their, 2 bathrooms. So, it has 2 bathrooms per unit, and then it has a laundry mechanical, also for that. So, keeping with that, so they're all pretty, similar. Then the 1 bedrooms are also large, with a large open kitchen, laundry room, and, living dining room. And then also what we have on each floor, we have amenity space, which is all incorporated into the building. We have a gym room, a community room, and then there's an amenity room also. So there's three separate and distinct rooms that have distinct applications. So there's a lot of flexibility for that space. People are able to use that for the tenants, so it wouldn't be one room where people would be have to vie for different kinds and things. So it's much more workable for the tenants. Showing the elevations, we have the 2D drafted elevations. And basically, we have Carroll Street. We have the balconies, different architectural cornices and architectural design for that. We have on Carroll Street, we have the main entrance to the garage. You also see the storefront, and then we have 180, 86 Carroll, which is would be the entrance to the apartments, but also the storefront for commercial use. So showing those, the less elaborate is the rear and side elevations. And I would like to share that rendering. So we did a 3D photorealistic rendering of the building, and you can see the large apartment adjacent to us on Carroll Street, and then we have the storefront, different brick, two different brick styles, stucco style, cornice, and then we have these wrought iron decorative Juliet balcony railings on the apartments. We've also added street trees along Van Houten and Carroll, and we wanted to keep with the aesthetic of the redevelopment plan. So those are the architectural details and aesthetic improvements we've done for this structure.
Okay, very good. That would conclude Mr. Evans' director's testimony, Mr. Chairman. And he's available for any questions at this time, or if you wish to proceed with the other witnesses, however you please.
Thank you, Mr. Evans, thank you, Mr. Maricondo. Yes, I'd like to call your next witness.
Sure, I'm going to call it Mr. Anderson Reed.
Please raise your right hand.
I knew you always wanted to be me, George.
You swear or affirm testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
State your full name for the record, please.
Anderson Reed, R-E-I-D.
Mr. Reed, you are the principal of United Assets Management, is that right?
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Williams was ready to jump there, I apologize. I figured you could ratify Mr. Evans' testimony fairly quickly and leave Mr. Williams to back cleanup, I guess, or back third in the lineup, you know. Mr. Reed, you've heard all the testimony of Mr. Evans as well as Mr. Deutsch's report?
Yes.
Okay, are you in full agreement with that testimony?
Yes.
Okay, obviously your experience in the city, I think the commissioners are well aware of, and anything particular about this site in terms of its development that you wanted to bring forth to the commissioners as additional information?
Well, other than the fact I'm pretty sure Mr. Williams probably has some photos of the existing conditions of the site, and as you saw on the rendering, like I took my time with Mr. Evans to pick out those particular colors I want the building to look. I think it'll look real nice in the area, and it'll be a dramatic improvement to what's there now. I mean, I bought the property on the corner, which is outdated. I guess they're like very tiny one-bedroom apartments that are in desperate need of repairs. The building is basically vacant. I just had one guy there, basically watching over the place. And then, in addition to that, I bought the property behind it. After me and Mr. Evans came up with the concept for the project, I bought the property behind it. just to, not to add more units, but to make the units a little bigger and create a couple more parking spaces, for the project.
And you're satisfied that this design will meet the parking needs of a site of this size and scope based on your experience?
Yes, and I think it'd be something that the community be proud of and I'll be personally proud of, to put my name to the building.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reed. Mr. Chairman, I can proceed to Mr. Williams at this time if you wish.
Microphone's on. Mike's off.
Yes, I'd like to, go with the third witness. I'm sorry for keeping my mic mute. This is for Mr. Williamson.
Thank you very much. Mr. George Williams.
Please raise your right hand. You swear affirm testimony about to give us the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I most certainly do.
Please state your full name for the record.
Thank you, Madam Court Reporter. My name is George Weedle Williams with the Nishuane Group, headquartered in Montclair, New Jersey, 105 Grove Street, suite number 3, a Anderson Reed wannabe.
And I accept it as the, expert witness.
All right. Sure, one of you can be Aaron Judge and the other guy can be Jay Carlo. That's good either way, you know?
And Mr. Maricon, I'll just say very quickly for a bit of levity, even though I grew up next to Paterson's Larry Doby, I know nothing about baseball, so.
I'm sorry about that. All right, I'm giving it away as a Yankee fan, I guess. So, that's okay. That's a good neighbor you have there, Mr. Doby. Mr. Williams, you just state quickly your professional background for credentials.
Certainly licensed planner in the state of New Jersey, nationally certified by the American Institute of Certified Planners. Completed my graduate studies in city and regional planning at Rutgers Graduate School. Have been practicing in the field for a little over 30 years now, with a primary focus on land use. I've appeared before this board and the zoning board of Paterson on numerous occasions, as well as land use boards throughout the state of New Jersey.
Mr. Chairman, we ask him to be accepted.
Yes, I already stated that I accepted him as a expert witness, but still, licensing, yes.
All right, so Mr. Williams, obviously you've heard the report of Mr. Deutsch and Mr. Evans' testimony and Mr. Reed's testimony.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for accepting me, and yes, Mr. Maricon, I did.
Okay, you may proceed then with your planning testimony.
Certainly, I'll just begin briefly for the record. Again, this is property known as Block 4306, lot number 10, 11, and 12, and commonly referred to as 180-182 Carroll Street, as well as the Van Houten Street addresses. It is located in the city's 4th Ward redevelopment area, as stated by Mr. Deutsch, and I'll talk a bit about the purpose of local housing and redevelopment law, or redevelopment planning in general, a bit later. The recitation of the reliefs provided by Mr. Deutsch, we would agree with 100%, as you heard from both Mr. Evans and Mr. Reed. Very generally, in my professional opinion as a licensed planner, what is being proposed this evening by United Assets Management is something that advances the purposes of both your redevelopment plan and your master plan, and is also appropriate for this location in the redevelopment area, particularly given the surrounding land uses in the vicinity. With that, what I would like to do is very briefly share an exhibit. I know that you all know this area as well as, if not better than I, but just to give some context for the remainder of my testimony, if I can find the file. And as I locate the file and populate the screen.
I'm sorry, Mr. Williams. Mr. Maricon, do you want to mark that as A1? Madam Court Reporter, if we can mark that as A1. Thank you.
Mr. Aquaviva, can you see the exhibit on the screen?
I see it, yeah.
Yeah. Commissioners, A1 is a, what I would refer to as a standard exhibit that my office uses. It's a series of images that are taken directly from Paterson's land use documents and images that were captured during my visit and staff visits to the site. I will not go through the entire thing, but again, just to give context, I wanted to share this exhibit. Slide number 2 is simply a section of the land use map in the redevelopment plan. The shaded green area at the lower center of the image is the property that's the subject of tonight's hearing. As Mr. Reed testified, this is a property that includes several tax lots. Also, as I mentioned in my testimony, clearly in the 4th Ward redevelopment area, RA2 district. Next picture is just another view of the site without the zoning overlay. This is an aerial photograph giving you a sense of the site in the context of the surrounding neighborhood. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but directly diagonally across the street on the other side of Carroll and Van Houten, there's another project that is under construction currently. Slide number 4 is a frontal view of the subject site as it exists now. As Mr. Reed testified, the building is in a state of disrepair. This is kind of an anecdotal comment that I'll share, but I did speak to a couple of residents while I was out conducting my site visit, and their responses were that they would like to see the building gone. So that's just anecdotal. Slide number 5 shows the properties at the rear of the site that Mr. Reed spoke of that were purchased to allow for more spacious apartments on this subject property and the amenity spaces. These are on Van Houten. Slide number 6, and I may conclude here, this is a view of 190 Carroll Street, just to give you a sense of the context and how, if approved, our application would fit in with the other multifamily in the area. Other land uses include a former school, another multifamily, the senior garden apartment, and then if you go in the opposite direction, you head to Broadway, where it's primarily commercial. With that, I think I can move to the exhibits. I'm sorry, the proofs. Excuse me. I'm trying to figure out how to unshare. Give me 1 second. Commissioner, the property is located in a redevelopment area. I often cite the sections of the redevelopment plan that would be advanced by approving our application. What I'd like to do is just briefly add this time that the purpose of the local housing redevelopment law is to stimulate growth in areas that are stubbornly non-conforming and have high indices of vacant properties, abandoned buildings, deteriorated properties, as is the case here, lack of taxes being paid, and other social indicators that are negative and stymie growth and development of a community. So redevelopment plans are intended to incentivize development and investment by creating a set of standards that promote a vision for the revitalization of the neighborhood, but also to give incentives for development and to allow for some flexibility in the review of applications, again, all with an eye towards revitalizing neighborhoods and communities. In Paterson, you've heard me say this before, Paterson has redevelopment plans that, in my professional opinion, are very good because they are performing. That is, that developers like United Asset Management are taking up the challenge and investing in areas that have not been performing for periods of years, sometimes decades. And in Paterson, your redevelopment plan jives with the master plan, which also looks at these areas and has a vision for their growth. The redevelopment plan for this area has several goals and objectives, and in my opinion, if you were to grant our relief, those goals and objectives would be advanced. Housing goal number 3, to provide opportunities for the construction and or rehabilitation of affordably priced and market rate housing. Housing objective 3C, promote infill housing development on vacant properties. Again, this is not vacant, but we consider this similar to an infill housing development. Housing goal number 4, stabilize and improve existing residential neighborhoods. Land use goal number 1, provide for appropriate mix of land uses, balancing the needs for residential, commercial, and industrial land uses with the needs of civic uses and open space recreation. This is a mixed-use development and not only advances that particular goal. In terms of the proofs, the list of C variances, all bulk and area variances, and parking, all, in my opinion, would fit in the context of the C2 variance. The C2 or flexible C variance allows the board to consider if, on the whole, our proposal is a better zoning alternative than a strict application of your code. And in that case, so showing that the benefits outweigh the detriments and that there are no substantial impairment to the zone plan or no substantial detriment to the public good. I would submit to this board that the C2 context is appropriate for your consideration, and that the purposes, the grant of the variances are, rooted in the purposes of zoning. The first purpose of zoning under the municipal land use law that is appropriate would be subsection A, to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, and welfare. It is the first purpose of zoning, so it's a bit broad, but I submit that it's appropriate for its application because if you approve our application with those reliefs, we would be removing a building that is in a poor state and replacing it with a building which, in my opinion, is aesthetically pleasing, would support the revitalization of this neighborhood as described by Mr. Evans. Subsection J, to prevent urban sprawl and degradation of the environment through improper use of land. That's always appropriate in my professional opinion when dealing with applications for development in redevelopment area because it speaks to leveraging redevelopment areas and their existing infrastructure as opposed to encouraging urban sprawl. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, subsection I, to promote a desirable visual environment and good civic design. You heard the testimony from Mr. Evans, which I think spoke directly to subsection I about his focus and Mr. Reed's focus on the materials used for the facade, fenestration, some of the architectural appointments like the Juliet balconies, and the good civic design, being able to accommodate the parking spaces on site in a way that works perfectly in this neighborhood, in my opinion, and the provision of significant interior amenities, which is the growing trend in urban development schemes. Also, the advancement of a state policy, in my professional opinion, if you were to grant this application and those bulk and area deviations, you would be advancing the state policy of smart growth, which encourages this type of development, specifically a development that is mixed use, a development that makes neighborhoods more walkable, and a neighborhood that is dense and compact. In terms of the benefits outweighing the detriments, in my opinion, for all the reasons stated by Mr. Evans and Mr. Reed, and my analysis of the application and view of the site, the benefits would far outweigh any detriments. I'd go so far as to contend that there would be no detriments created by the granting of the requested bulk and area relief. In fact, the benefits would be the only thing that would accrue, not just to this site and the applicant, but to the overall neighborhood in this redevelopment area. In terms of the impairment to the zone plan, based on my analysis of your master plan, there are no impairments to your master plan. In fact, as I alluded earlier, if you were to grant our relief, we would advance several goals and objectives of your master plan. Finally, there is a court case, it's called a pull-in court case, which allows the board to look at the overall development and the deviations from the bulk and area standards in their aggregate. So I didn't call them out individually. I certainly can if the board would like me to go through them individually. But under the pull-in court case, if you agree, as we submit, that the overall development is a good plan, well thought out by Mr. Reed and Mr. Evans, good for the neighborhood and advancing your redevelopment plan, then you can grant the C2 variance looking at the overall development as opposed to those deviations individually. In terms of parking, there is a parking variance similar to the bulk and area deviations. I submit it is most appropriately reviewed under the C2 context. And in that context, for parking in particular, the board has the ability to look at what the actual parking demand is and whether our supply will meet that demand. Mr. Reed and United Asset Management has a lot of experience working in the Paterson redevelopment areas and has his empirical data about what real parking demand is and has attested that what is supplied will be sufficient to meet the real parking demand for a development of this type, given its location in a redevelopment area, given its location proximate to mass transportation, particularly along Broadway, that we are supplying enough parking to accommodate the real demand. There's a court case called Valenti v. Seekin, which encourages boards to look at real parking demand as opposed to the strict application of your code. And if you feel, as we do, and as Mr. Reed attests, that the supply is adequate for the real demand, then you can comfortably grant the C2 variance for the parking. Finally, I would add, and you've heard me say this before, the Paterson Master Plan actually includes section 500-7.3, and that portion of the master plan contemplates developments like this and suggests that if Paterson is going to revitalize areas, particularly in redevelopment areas, that some flexibility for parking is appropriate, and for all the reasons I've just mentioned. So with that, I would submit to the board that the C2 context burden is met both for the bulk and area deviations as well as the parking deviations from the strict application of your code. And that would conclude my direct testimony, but I'm available to answer questions as soon as I take a little drink of water.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, that would conclude all our direct testimony. We're available for any questions for any of our witnesses at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you, Mr. Maricando. I'd like to give the floor to our respective residents. Residents, if you have any question to any of our witnesses, you may call at 973-321-1579. I'm repeating, 973-321-1579, meeting ID number 711-680-001. You may address your question to any of the witnesses, architect Mr. Evans, planner Mr. Williams, or applicant Mr. Reed. We have 2 minutes to call in and 3 minutes for your questions or comments. Mr. Deutsch, is there any resident as of now on the line for question and comment?
Not at the moment, no, sir.
Is it okay if we go to the commissioners, and if any resident join, we'll go back to we'll take the question from residents?
Yes, sir, that would be fine.
All right, thank you, Mr. Deutsch. Any commissioner, if you have any question to any of our witnesses this evening, you may address your question.
Hi, Commissioner Santana.
Commissioner Santana.
You first.
Thank you. So I have a question for Mr. You are charging the additional fee for the parking for your tenants, or that is on the parking, right? Okay. I feel like this project is not appropriate. The number of units is not. I don't feel like it's appropriate right now for that specific site. And out of 12 variants, you're asking for 8. I know parking here would not be an issue, but I was also concerning that I see that some of your parking, some people are going to be blocking the parking. So how do you usually manage that when someone blocks someone else that is parked there? Especially how you're going to control how parking spaces are going to be designed for the people having access to the store or the business that is going to be in that building.
I can have both Mr. Reed and Mr. Williams address your concerns. I will say that you are correct that there are some tandem spaces involved, and normally when a building of this proposed number of units, there is a management team always on site, particularly with the I'm sure of that always, that will make the regulations and the setup with regard to the use of those spaces so that family members that have more than one vehicle will be allocated spaces where the tandem parking is required so that that can function smoothly. It has worked successfully in the past. We believe that the number of our parking spaces and the ratio that we provide that the multiple variances that you refer to are all bulk variances that relate to setbacks and rear yard and number of stories and so forth. And they're actually, in most cases, minimal, but I'm going to defer to Mr. Williams to follow up on both of those questions.
Yeah, and also, I don't think we have a parking variance,
We don't.
meet our parking requirements, so we don't have no parking variance. And I don't believe in Mr. Tahir that, the commercial, space would not have, access to the parking garage. That'd be for the residential tenants. And it would be like more just like a community type, neighborhood business, not no like bar or, restaurant, anything like that, where it's high volume, going there like, every minute of the day.
Right, very small service businesses basically serve this building in a very needed area. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And again, you're
That's the
correct.
way to take it from here.
We more than meet the criteria for parking.
Yes, and I want to apologize to the board for that. It's one of the problems with virtual meetings. If we were in person, Alan would have kicked me under the table and said, remember we corrected the parking? So on a previous plan, there was a discrepancy about parking, but it was addressed and there's no need for a parking variance. So I apologize to the commissioners for that. In terms of, and just to piggyback on that, that was one of the reasons I think Mr. Reed testified to earlier as to why he purchased the extra properties, so as to provide on-site all of the required parking. So I cannot apologize enough for that. In terms of Commissioner Santana's questions about the Vulcan area deviations, I did aggregate them, perhaps a disservice to the board. When you look at them individually, I would characterize them the same way that Mr. Mariconda did. They are relatively minimal, and each of them can be justified as part of the C2 trade-offs. That is, such as a bit of give and take for a minor deviation from the setback for minimum front yard, for example, which is like the other multifamily building adjacent to us. We're able to accommodate more parking on site. Minimum side yard, 5 foot required, 0 is proposed. Same issue as the front yard. Particularly important to think about these reliefs in the context of our adjacent multifamily building, which has very similar setbacks as what we're proposing. And the list goes on with the maximum lot coverage and the impervious surface, which goes kind of hand in glove, but very, very similar to the property adjacent to ours as the multifamily.
Would you fair to say, George, then that in terms of the streetscape and the surrounding multifamily structures, we're pretty close to being in very clear conformity with those buildings?
That is correct, and that's what the design team looked at when they were developing this particular site, looking at the properties on Carroll and making sure that the streetscape remained consistent with those.
Do you see any impact from a negative perspective to the variance per se with regard to building number of stories or building height? I characterize them as relatively minimal, but do you want to elaborate in any way on that?
Not much more to say. I would agree with your synopsis, Mr. Mariconda. Again, the design team looked at the streetscape and came up with a program that matched the streetscape on Carroll and what we believe will be future construction diagonally across from us. So in that sense, each of those deviations would be in keeping with what's immediately around the subject site.
Okay, do you see any negative impact in terms of impeding on or obstructing light and air of any surrounding buildings or neighbors?
No, particularly because of the existing streetscape in this area, there would be no detriment to the surrounding area because it will be similar to what we are proposing.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Santana, do you have any question? Any other question?
I do have one more question for Mr. Williams. based on your experience and your professional, opinion, do you think this is gonna, this project can or will impact traffic? Cause traffic over there, you have to taking in consideration the school, plus you have Broadway just basically around on the corner. Traffic over there get really heavy. And I don't know, I didn't saw any sign or stop sign on the sideline. Maybe I just missed it. But, I'm just concerning whether that is gonna have an impact on traffic in that area.
So I know Mr. Reed wants to jump in. I'll just lay the foundation and allow him to kind of build upon that. From a planning perspective, I don't want to mislead the board. I'm not testifying as a traffic expert. I don't think that was the point of your question. I would just say from a planning perspective, because the use is permitted, the understanding is that use and the traffic it may generate would be appropriate for this location. So again, from a planning perspective, I don't foresee a problem. Mr. Reed has shared with me in discussions prior to this hearing that he suspects that the parking supply on the site will probably be more than what is actually going to be required by the tenants at this site, and they will probably either use fewer cars and or leverage the existing public transportation. So again, not testifying as a traffic expert, but simply from a professional planning perspective and in my personal experience, there should be no negative impact of the traffic.
And if I could add to it, Mr. Americana and Commissioner Santana, actually the nearest school is around the corner, Edward Kilpatrick, and the second school is school number 6, which is at starting at Fair Street in Carroll. But at Broadway and Carroll, you have a traffic light. At this intersection right here, there's a traffic light, and at the next intersection, which is Ellison Street in Carroll, they also have a traffic light. And the traffic lights are sequenced, whereas like you don't get a green light on all of them, so like you basically got to stop for each light.
And also our proximity to the public transportation routes that George alluded to, you can confirm that as well?
Yes.
And I'll just confirm that the traffic signalization is, as Mr. Reed testified when I was doing my streetscape pictures, because they're signalized that way, I was able to scan in the intersection and take pictures in all 4 directions without having to worry about oncoming traffic.
Thank you.
Commissioner Santana, do you have any other question?
No, thank you so much.
Commissioner Santana, so your first question when you addressed, and I believe Mr. Reed mentioned that the parking spaces are not going to be used by the commercial space, only will be used by the residents who live in the building. So would you like to add a condition to this to make sure that it's not going to be used by commercial purpose, only the residents who live in this building will use the parking spaces? Would you like to add a condition to the application?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I mean, I just want to say here, just to put on the record, that the tenants will have a special access key to get into the garage. So only the tenants that live, residential tenants, will have an access key that will remotely open the garage and lower it. So people visiting the business will not have a access key to enter or exit the garage.
Sounds great, and I'm going to, I'd like to get attention from our attorney, board attorney, Mr. Akaviva. So can we still add on the condition, just for the record, that these spaces are not going to use for commercial purposes, only the residents who live in the building?
Yes, we could. I mean, the applicant made the representation on the record, and that's what I was just typing right now. And if I understood it correctly, is that patrons and customers of the business would not be permitted to park in the in the parking lot used for the residents. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, and no, they have access to get into the parking area.
And
Right.
the second part, I'm sorry for, second part of the answer to Commissioner Santana's first question was that the commercial space is not going to be used for restaurants. Commissioner Santana, do you want to add that to the on the record as well, that this is not going to be used?
Before we ask Commissioner Santana that question, I'll ask Mr. Maricon that the applicant states it and puts it on the record.
I believe that Mr. Reed already referred to that. You can confirm it.
Yeah, I did put that on the record, as far as I said, like restaurants or bars or, type of things like that, but, also, if you recall in Mr. Deutsch's report, that, any use that's not permitted will have to come to the board for application, and at that time, a board, either yourselves or whatever, will make a determination if that type of business will be suitable for this site, which I highly doubt, and that's not what I'll be written for, a bar, a restaurant, none of the sorts. I have put down the record, I will not rent it.
Right, we absolutely intend to comply with only the limited number of small commercial uses that are contemplated at this particular type of intersection or location in the R2 section of the fourth ward. And that's a very limited small service type of business.
Thank you. I believe, Commissioner Santana has another question.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure, like, if you're putting up a business there that is a business that matches the need that that community specifically has, and that doesn't produce a heavy amount of traffic of people coming back, because over there parking is really hard, so you don't want people parking, double parking over there, waiting to get some, waiting to buy or get some service. So I would like that to be taken into consideration, with this application.
Commissioner Santana, I promise you, if you make the motion for approval, I will stipulate to that condition, no problem.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Thank you, Commissioner Santana. Any other commissioners have any question to any of our witnesses?
Yes. Exactly how many parking spaces we talking about?
Would you please introduce yourself, Commissioner?
I'm sorry, this is Commissioner Pedro Liranzo.
Commissioner.
Chairman, Commissioner, actually, I'm gonna go off of that question a little bit, because I had a question for Mr. Deutsch to clarify that. And I think it will answer Commissioner Lorenzo's question as well.
Sure, Mr. Reed, go ahead and I'll let the commissioners to ask their questions.
I'm sorry?
You can continue whatever question you have to.
Mr. Deutsch, I just wanted to clarify, because I heard testimony over the course of the meeting about parking. Is your review the same? In other words, your review shows 32 required parking spaces, 34 being proposed, 9 of those are tandem spaces. So essentially, it's a parking variance, but not in the number of parking spaces, just in the, I guess in the over the course of the testimony tonight, or is that still the same?
That's still the same.
I said, Commissioner Lorenzo, there's 32 parking spaces required. The applicant is proposing 34, so he meets that requirement. The only difference is that 9 of those 34 spaces are designed as tandem parking spaces. So it is a parking variance in one way, but it is not in another way. So the parking requirement is being met.
Commissioner Lorenzo, does it answer your question?
Yes.
Do you have any other question?
No, not at the moment.
Commissioner Fisher has a question, I believe, Mr. Fisher? Commissioner Fisher.
Yes. I have 2 questions, one for Mr. Williams. He showed a picture of the building on Carroll Street. How many units is that building compared to the one that Paramount's putting out?
Not Paramount, United Assets Management.
I'm sorry, United.
I believe Mr. Evans can answer that, or Mr. Reed.
Okay.
Mr. Evans?
For 171 Carroll Street.
Yes.
There's 20 apartments and there's 1 commercial with parking below. So that's a 5,000 square foot lot. So we have 12,500 square feet.
More than double, yeah.
Yeah, so we have less than half, more than double of the space.
Okay, and my second question is to Mr. Reed. A lot of constituents have been complaining about the fact that these new buildings that are coming up around Paterson will impact our school districts for overcrowdedness. Do you know if that building where you are is for EWK or school number 6? Do you know which one it is?
It would be EWK, it's 1 block from EWK.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. Any other commissioners? Has any other question to any of the witnesses?
Commissioner Figueroa, I have a question.
The floor is yours.
Okay, so as far as the commercial space use, there's nothing designated at this time.
No, ma'am.
I saw the hours are from like 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So
Yes.
what are you thinking of future when we speak about, you know, limited use, like limited capacity, not having a lot of traffic and whatnot? So no bars, restaurants, etc., right?
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
It's a very small square footage, so you can't really establish a large scale business there. And it's very much recommended and worked on within the redevelopment plan that these type of structures and these type of locations and these particular intersections, there's a long standing tradition of small corner businesses, small service businesses, to meet some of the limited needs that are the neighbor and the occupant of the buildings can utilize very small service business. Nothing
And the last thing I would want there is a bar or a liquor store or anything like that. I wouldn't want to disturb the tranquility of my tenants either.
I agree. I do want to commend you.
If I may, I just want to clarify, first of all, there is going to be a prohibition against restaurant or bars. That's going to be a condition of the approval if a motion for approval is made. I just want to point out that any business that would want to establish itself in that space would be subject to at least a building inspection and construction official and whatever internal procedures there are in the city. If for some reason a particular the applicant or whoever would want to use that space for a use that's not permitted, they would have to apply for a full-blown variance and come before this board or the Board of Adjustment. So there is another, insulation level, if you will, in terms of filtering what can go in that space and what can't. What we do know for sure, as a condition of this approval, if there was a motion for approval, was that there would be no restaurant or bars permitted in there regardless. They wouldn't be able to apply for a use variance because the resolution would prohibit it.
All right, got it. I do want to commend you on having the gym area and the amenity room, a community room, and that the units are going to have washers and dryers and the refuse. As someone that, a refuse chute, because as someone that lived in an apartment building for over 10 years, those are really nice amenities to have in the building, so.
And as Mr. Reed pointed out, and I think Mr. Evans did as well, what we tried to do was create a diversity of amenity spaces in terms of the recreation, the passive recreation, so there's a mix of things that various tenants might like to do there.
Thank you, Commissioner Figueroa. Do you have any other question, Commissioner?
No.
Any other commissioners? Do you have any questions to any of these witnesses? And I believe no question. Mr. Deutsch, is there any caller from public person?
I'm checking, sir.
Sure, Mr. Deutsch.
We have no callers, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch. I believe we gave enough time for the callers to call in. If no commissioners have any question, I'll go to Mr. Marikander for his concluding statements.
Thank you very much. I will make it very brief, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I really appreciate the dialogue that we were able to have this evening, the input from the commissioners with the various witnesses. I think it was very beneficial towards a better understanding. And again, I think we have here one of the best applications that has come forward within the Fourth Ward redevelopment zone in terms not only of the starting point with a very large lot size that Mr. Evans alluded to just a minute ago, is the applicant has tried to make this application fit the site in all respects in terms of the physical structure, the nature of the usage, the size of the units are varied in terms of the number of bedrooms and size of the space. And the variety of amenity spaces that we provide is very positive, as one of the commissioners also has pointed out tonight. So we feel like this is a positive building that not gonna create any negative impact based upon our planner's testimony. We have much more parking than many sites in the city of Paterson, be it older developments or the newer developments. And with the management team that United Assets presents to the city, we think that the parking on site with the tandem setup will function very smoothly, and we look forward to the board considering a motion for approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Maricando. Thank you to all our expert witnesses and our commissioners. Would any commissioner would like to make motion?
Vice Chair, I would like to.
Commissioner Fulmore, the floor is yours. As a reminder, there are two conditions: that the parking spaces are not going to be used for commercial purposes, and the commercial space is not going to be used for restaurant or bar. We can continue.
I would like to make a motion to approve on the application of United Assets Management LLC, 641 Broadway, Suite 3, Paterson, New Jersey, 07514, at property 318 Van Houten Street, Block 4306, Lot 10, 180-182 Carroll Street, Block 4306, Lot 11, and 184-186 Carroll Street, Block 4306, Lot 12. I move that the board attorney prepare a resolution granting site plan approval, bulk variances, city engineer, and Hudson Essex Estate Soil Conservation District with the following conditions: that parking spaces are only permitted for residents, not allowing commercial patrons for parking spaces. And the second condition is that the commercial property will not be used for restaurants or bars.
Thank you, Commissioner Fulmer, for the motion for approval. Would any commissioner would like to second seconded by Commissioner Fisher? Roll call, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Commissioner Fulmar,
Yes.
Commissioner Fisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Ahmed,
Yes.
Commissioner Ahmed,
Yes.
Commissioner Figueroa,
Yes.
Commissioner Lorenzo,
Yes.
Commissioner Roman,
Yes.
Commissioner Santana,
Yes.
and Acting Chairman Udine.
Yes.
This application passes by a vote of 8-0.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Congratulations.
Consideration on this application tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner, do you have any other matters?
Mr. Deutsch?
We have no resolution, is that correct, Mr. Aguilera?
No, we will have them at our, well, we won't have them for Wednesday, but we'll have them for the next meeting.
Sounds good.
We do have a meeting on Wednesday. It's 3 applications, but they are all they're all within the same block. It's 3 more small applications that we're gonna hear Wednesday, October 6th. You'll be getting the reviews tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Deutsch, and thank you, commissioners, staff. Have a wonderful evening, and I think we have to close the meeting by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And good night, everyone.
Thank you, good night.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
Yes.